There's something hilariously cruel about waking up thinking, today's gonna be different, only for the universe to respond with a smirk and a baseball bat. You spill coffee on your shirt before you even leave the house, your phone battery dies at 9 a.m. despite being plugged in all night, and traffic seems to be choreographed by Satan himself. We've all had one of those days where you're convinced the cosmos is playing a very specific joke at your expense. It was one of those mornings, the kind where I woke up 5 minutes late and the day somehow managed to snowball from mildly annoying to aggressively inconvenient. My toast fell jelly side down, my socks didn't match, and of course, the elevator at work decided it was the perfect day to go on strike. By the time I sat at my desk, I was sweaty, irritated, and entirely convinced the day was already ruined. My inbox only confirmed this belief. 10 unread emails, each one radiating the passive aggressiveness that only office communication can deliver. One of them started with, "Per my last email," which, as any white-collar worker knows, is code for, "You clearly didn't read anything I wrote, you human disaster." So there I was, hunched over my keyboard, caffeineless and cornered by the Monday blues, and then it happened. It wasn't a grand gesture, no spontaneous promotion, no mariachi band bursting into the office to sing my praises. Just a tiny, almost forgettable moment. The intern from the design team, barely 3 weeks into the job, walked past me, paused, and said, "By the way, I really liked what you said in that meeting last week. It actually helped me feel less nervous to present today." That was it. That was the moment. For a brief second, my brain stopped doom-scrolling through all the awful parts of the day. My spine straightened. I blinked. And without realizing it, I smiled. A real, uncontaminated by sarcasm smile. It was like someone had cracked open a window in a stuffy room. Something shifted inside me, no fireworks, just a quiet, almost imperceptible reset. I looked around and noticed the sun hitting the office plants in that nice, late-morning way. I heard someone laughing down the hall. Even my coffee didn't taste as bad as it did 15 minutes ago. It made me think, how could something so tiny, so ordinary, completely flip the switch in my mind? How could that one offhand comment hold the power to puncture the dark cloud I'd been marinating in all morning? Turns out, there's a pretty solid psychological explanation. Our brains are wired to pay attention to the bad stuff. It's called negativity bias, and it's not just some pessimistic quirk we inherited it from ancestors who had to remember which berries were poisonous and which saber-toothed tiger looked extra hungry. Evolution rewarded those who fixated on threats. That's why one bad comment can stick in your brain like gum on a shoe, while 100 compliments slide off like water on a duck. But here's the beautiful twist. While negative moments might dominate our attention, research shows that even small positive experiences can interrupt that spiral. A smile, a compliment. Someone holding the door when your hands are full of lunch and disappointment. These tiny gestures release neurotransmitters dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin that act like chemical lifeguards pulling us out of emotional riptides. It's like emotional jujitsu. You don't need a grand gesture to shift the vibe. One small, authentic act can break the loop. Like how one friendly wave can make you feel less alone in a crowd, or how a stranger's laugh can yank you out of your own gloomy thoughts. Psychologists call these moments uplifts, micro-experiences that can buffer stress and improve overall well-being. The best part? They're contagious. That intern's one comment lifted my mood, which made me more patient when someone else needed help, which maybe made their day a little easier too. It's a chain reaction of emotional kindness, and you never know where it ends. And yet, most of us are blind to it. Not because we're cold or selfish, but because we're distracted. We're scrolling through chaos, multitasking through stress, drowning in to-do lists. We're too busy surviving to notice that someone smiled at us in the hallway. We're too consumed by our own inner monologue to hear the small compliments floating around us like fireflies. But once in a while, if you're lucky or just paying attention, one of those fireflies lands on you, and suddenly you remember that the world isn't all noise and disappointment. That tiny moment with the intern? It didn't fix my deadlines or revive my dead phone. But it did remind me I mattered, that I wasn't just a productivity machine, that something I said actually helped someone. And when you feel like the world is pulling you underwater, sometimes that's all it takes, a breath. Later that afternoon, I caught myself humming. Not the full-blown Broadway musical kind of humming, but a soft, unconscious tune under my breath, the kind that sneaks out when your brain forgets it's supposed to be stressed. I had knocked out a chunk of my work, replied to that spicy email without rage quitting, and even had enough energy to ask a coworker how their day was going, genuinely. It made me realize I almost let a bad morning hijack an entire day. I was this close to writing it off as a total loss by 9:15 a.m. But that one unexpected flicker of kindness, just a few words, turned the tide. And this wasn't some once-in-a-lifetime movie montage moment. These moments happen all the time. We just don't always recognize them as meaningful because they wear sweatpants and speak softly. They look like compliments you weren't expecting, like someone remembering your name, like a barista drawing a smiley face on your coffee cup for no reason other than, why not? We think life changes through big breakthroughs, job promotions, romantic confessions, tearful revelations. But sometimes, the biggest shifts come from the smallest nudges. A door held open, a glance of sympathy, a high five that you didn't know you needed until your hand met theirs. And here's the kicker. We get to be those moments for someone else. We get to be the tiny thing that flips someone's whole emotional trajectory. And that's not a small power. It's quietly world-changing. It's superhero stuff, just without the cape or radioactive spider. Since that day, I've tried to notice more, not just the good stuff coming at me, but the opportunities to send it out, compliment someone's socks, send a thank you message that feels unnecessary. Let the person with 2 items cut in front of you in the checkout line say you got this to a stranger tying their shoelaces before a run. Most people won't remember exactly what you said, but they'll remember how it made them feel, especially if they were one more bad moment away from giving up on the day. Of course, I'm not saying that every tiny kindness will magically erase the messiness of life. You can't compliment your way out of a flat tire or a heartbreak. But these moments don't need to fix everything, they just need to remind us that the day isn't done, that it's still open to being rewritten. That buried beneath the clutter of errands, emails, and existential dread, there are still reasons to smile and maybe even to hope. Sometimes I think about that intern. They probably forgot the comment minutes after saying it. They had their own nerves to battle, their own mental tabs open. But they left a spark in their wake that lit something up in me, and that spark changed the course of my entire day. It's funny how the things that save us aren't always dramatic or Instagrammable. Sometimes, salvation arrives in a sentence, or a smile, or a stupid joke you overheard at the bus stop that inexplicably makes you laugh hours later in a boring meeting. So, the next time your day starts to feel like a lost cause, remember this. You don't need a miracle, you just need a moment. And that moment might already be on its way to you, quiet, unassuming, walking down the hall with a cup of coffee and a few kind words. And maybe, if the timing's right, you will be that moment for someone else. Because in the end, it's not always about saving the world. Sometimes, it's just about saving one day. And sometimes, that's more than enough.